follow along. And hopefully you all can open that and yeah, so we'll get started. I don't believe Naya is on yet, but that's okay because she can just share her part later on. But we can move forward to Kate Medina, Executive Director at Charles Coiner Conservancy Farm. And she's going to be speaking about the groundbreaking at Lorderman Middle School Farm and other programming.
Sounds good. Thanks, Esther.
Yeah.
So, Lorian, if you're able to share some of the slides that I brought, that would be awesome. I think we'll end with that video clip if it works. If the video clip doesn't work, well, then we can just follow up with people afterwards and they can watch it on their own, if that's cool. So as Esther said, thank you. Yeah, my name is Kate Medina, and I'm the Executive Director of the Charles Coiner Conservancy for Urban Farming. That is a local land trust dedicated to protecting and sustaining urban farms here in Montgomery County. Our flagship farm is Coiner Farm in downtown Silver Spring, and we are very happy, proud, honored to announce that we just launched our second farm that we will be managing in Wheaton, Maryland, which is part of Montgomery County. It is an equity focus area of Montgomery County. It is also a low income and low food access community as identified by the USDA's Food Access Atlas. And it has a 62% distressed communities index rating. So it is exactly the kind of location that we were looking for to launch our second farm. The farm will include a food donations element. Just like at Coiner Farm, we're striving to donate 50% of what we grow to nonprofit food assistance partners. And a lot of those partners are very present and already in place in Wheaton. So we're really fortunate. What I wanted to share today, though, is specifically about Montgomery County Public Schools REACH program, because I think that it relates to the work of this working group, because the focus of REACH, and REACH, by the way, REACH stands for Resilience, Education, Action, Climate, Habitat. Got all that? But really, I think that it makes the most sense just to call it a resiliency hub, because all of those other elements, all those other words I just mentioned, can fall under what is a resilient community. And these hubs, you can see here that they emerged out of Montgomery County Public Schools policy on sustainability, which has been revised. And I will also add that Montgomery County Public Schools was or is pretty progressive with this initiative, with this REACH initiative, because also this Earth Day, just 2 days ago, Earth Day 2024, the Maryland's governor announced an executive order to increase the number of outdoor education opportunities that are climate focused for students. And that's exactly what REACH is trying to do. So not only is it building resilient communities, but it's also involving the students in outdoor learning. Oh yeah, sorry, next slide, if you don't mind. This is obviously too small of font for most of us to see, so I can share these slides afterwards. It's just a PDF. But it's important to include all of this sort of the thinking that went into REACH, is particularly the living schoolyards, because the REACH hub at Lorderman Middle School, which just launched on Earth Day, like this past Monday, that's a pilot, right? That's the first one. There is the intent of having at least 3 others. And the criteria for how MCPS will select where the 3 other REACH hubs are located is based on food access and land access, so an equity index that they have for their communities. And I just thought that was really important because that's exactly what this whole working group is focused on: equitable access to land and therefore food production. And so it's really nice that the criteria for selecting the sites for reach align with what this working group has been focused on. And so that's why I decided to include all of those little details there. Next slide. How am I doing on time? Okay. Kind of covered this one in my last in my introduction, so we can move on, Lorian, if that's okay. Okay, so this is a nice one here. Gives some graphics as to what MCPS is looking for in their reach hubs. Of course, the Charles Corner Conservancy, we're focused on the farm, and the farm is, as we say, like sort of that central cog, that gear within the whole system that keeps the other elements relevant and moving forward. So what I mean by that is the farm uses the energy that is harvested through the solar panels and grows food underneath. If it's an agrovoltaic area, grows the food underneath, distributes that food into the community, and therefore reduces food miles on the food, and then also accepts back the food scraps, therefore closing the loop. So a lot of the elements of a resilient community or the resilience hub are made possible by the farm and made relevant by the farm. Okay, next slide. Okay. So these resilience hubs, these reach hubs, are connected to the Smith Center. The Smith Center is Montgomery County Public Schools Outdoor Education Center. They have a outdoor education curriculum. And so all of the hubs will need to have an educational component. And the Smith Center's outdoor education curriculum will be used for education at these hubs. And so the Charles Corner Conservancy, we're really trying to learn more about this outdoor curriculum and how we can integrate more agricultural elements into it, while also making sure that climate stays front and center. Okay, next slide. Okay. So as I mentioned, the first reach hub is at Loiterman. Yeah, next slide. Okay, and here are some other things that reach hubs could include. The project at Loiterman, the farm is the first piece. That's phase 1. And the only thing we did on Monday on Earth Day this year was to establish the teaching plot. There'll be 2 other plots associated with the farm: a welcome plot and a production plot. Those will come online. See, the welcome plot coming online in 2024 and the production plot in 2025. So other elements of the reach hub include agrovoltaic demonstration area, commercial composting for the 4 schools that are really close to Loiterman. That's Weller Road Elementary School, a community school, as well as Wheaton High School and Thomas Edison Tech High School, which is a career readiness school. And another element of the Loiterman Reach Hub will be an outdoor classroom. So commercial composting, agrivoltaics, and outdoor classroom, and then the farm. But there's other pieces that they are considering for other reach hubs. Okay, I think next slide. It's gonna be getting to the end here. Okay, so again, now about like how Loiterman was selected. One, it has the school has a ton of land, so you have to start there. There has to be land and space to put this stuff. But really what they're looking at is how many students will be impacted. How densely populated is the community? So at Loiterman, for example, there are 20 schools within 2 miles, or 17,000 students and their families. Of these 17,000 students, there is about a 90% minority. And in addition to the 20 schools within 2 miles, 4 of them are just like right on top of each other. So that's Loiterman, which is the host school, Weller Road, Wheaton, and Thomas Edison Tech that I mentioned. Those are the 4 schools that we will really focus on in the beginning for the Loiterman farm. And as I said, you can see the last bullet there. It is in an equity focus area. Sorry. Yep. And last slide. So, resilience and all the elements of resilience that we kind of mentioned there, having the farm, the food production. At the end of the day, it is about the community. It is about how many people are interacting with the Resilience Hub. Not necessarily how many pounds of produce you're growing, not necessarily how much land you're converting. It's about how many people are engaging. And so that, given the focus of this group on equitable access to land, I think that really resonates. So that's all I have. I hope I didn't go over my time. I think I did. Okay. And I appreciate you guys listening. I don't know if we want to do questions now or at the end.
Yes, thank you so much for that presentation and all the wonderful work you're doing. I think we're going to keep the questions till the end, but please write down your questions in the chat so that we can go back and read them once we've gone through the presentations. Next up, we have Michael Wayand. I hope I said that correctly, from the Agricultural Business Development and Preservation Administrator, Office of Agricultural Services, to speak about the county's land preservation efforts.
Thanks, Esther. Hey, everyone, Mike Wyan, Montgomery County Office of Agriculture. I just started, so thanks for this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm from rural Western New York, a town called Hornell. It's about an hour south of Rochester, if you know the area. I wasn't really raised on a farm, but if you grew up in a small town, you know how the ag community shapes a large part of who you are. And I've always admired the practical nature of farmers. They know how to get stuff done. And being a career government employee, well, it takes forever to get permission for anything. So I really admire our farmers. A little bit about me, about my academic background. It's a bit all over the place. I have an undergrad in ag business management, a master's in environmental biology, and a doctorate in organizational leadership. And as far as my professional background, I'm coming off of a 7-year stint with the city of Gaithersburg, where I oversaw many of the city's environmental programs there: stormwater management, MS4 permitting, climate action planning, environmental justice, community grant programs. I was the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Program Stewardship Work Group there. But now I just joined the Montgomery County Office of Agriculture a few months back. I'm the Farmland Preservation Administrator. I'm honored to work alongside Natalia Salazar, who's on this call, and Mike Scheffel. But honestly, that was a massive career change for me. So honestly, I'm in the listening and learning mode, and I suspect I will be so for a while here. But at the Office of Ag, we have a couple of primary missions. One of them is to be the liaison between the ag community and county government, helping provide to the ag community some regulatory, marketing, and any kind of technical assistance they may need. Preserving farmland is a major goal, and protecting the future of agricultural food and fiber production, and just overall supporting agricultural education and outreach within the community. And in my short time here, I've noticed that the Office of Ag works with many of other agricultural agency partners, including the University of Maryland Extension, the Montgomery County Soil Conservation District, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, Farm Service Agency, the Food Council, and so many more. And in practice, the Office of Ag acts a lot like a directory or a sorting house. It's often a really good starting point for any ag-related topics or questions. We tend to just point people in the right direction of where they want to go. For example, anyone who's looking to get into farming, for instance, can send us a simple business plan, and we then advise them on any of the permits they may need, where to find technical support, how to navigate the regulatory end of things. So yeah, and in my short time with the OAG so far, I've noticed that Montgomery County has a very diverse agricultural industry. There are commodity crops, grains, soybeans. There are table producers, orchards, vegetables, animal husbandry, cattle and sheep, turf grass. What else is there? There's farm wineries and breweries. And it's important to note that each of these ag subgroups has its own unique challenges, viewpoints, and needs. And I think it's going to be all about having, a healthy and diverse so-called ecosystem of ag operations out there to maintain a good balance to try to meet all of these needs out there. I've also noticed that there is a tremendous amount of pressure on farmland. I mean, I knew this, but I didn't understand to what extent. We get calls and emails, daily where people want to do non-agricultural things on farmlands. And I was in a meeting recently where I heard one of the farmers say, I can compete with other farmers, but I can't compete with commercial operations. And I think that speaks to my role as the farmland preservation administrator, where the key really is maintaining a strong economic viable farming industry. Farms that can make money will stay farms, and that kind of all starts with ensuring that farmland stays farmland. So the Office of Ag protects farmland in like a variety of different ways, and I'm still learning about the different ways, but some of them are like zoning. There's the ag reserve, there's legislative oversight, and maybe the one way that's underrated is just advocating on behalf of the ag community, being in the room when certain conversations are happening and just, providing the viewpoint of the ag community. Another way, most notably in my role, is protecting farmland via ag easements. Land with ag easements lock in farming as the primary use for the long term. And while zoning can help shape that, zoning regulations can change. And we've seen some of those in recent history and conversations going on now about different zoning amendments that can change the use of the land. But the ag easements are a very important tool. And at this time, we've preserved over 70,000 acres of ag land in the county using a variety of different easement programs. I think the best way to think of it is like a toolbox or different programs, and based on your operation, you can, use these different easements. Some of them being, there's what's called the AEP, which is the Agricultural Easement Program, and that's the county program. We have Transfer of Development Rights Program, TDRs. We have BLTs, which are Building Lot Termination Program. We get grants from the state, Maryland Department of Agriculture, which through their program called the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation, the MOUth program, MET, which is the Maryland Environmental Trust. Then there's one other one, RLP, Rural Legacy Program, which is done through DNR. So a ton of different acronyms, but that's kind of my role, is to sort through these easement programs and try to match them up with the, tailor them to the different agricultural situations and operations out there, and basically help protect the land to ensure that there's going to be farmland here in the future. I think one thing to point out about the easement programs is that there's not necessarily a steady source of money. Funding comes from the ag transfer tax or state grants, and ag transfer tax is when a property transfers from ag to something else. So often we might have to save up money over future, a couple of years. But basically what that means is it makes it difficult to purchase grants quickly and consistently. And timing, as you know, is critical for these things, especially concerning equitable land access. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And like I said, I'm just learning and trying to keep an open mind right now. I welcome any feedback from the group. If there's something I should know, please tell me. If there's something you want to know about, please reach out. It's all good practice for me at this time. So again, thanks for having me. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Esther.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, so much to take away from that. If you have any questions for Mike, please put them in the chat. You can direct them to him and he will answer those in the chat. If not, you can wait until the end. All right. Moving along with the agenda, we have Ellen Gordon from the Sugarloaf Citizens Association and Christina Bostic from Montgomery Countryside Alliance.
Hi, folks, Christina here. I believe I'm going first. I'm going to need just 1 minute to get my screen shared here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Oh, sorry, hang on one sec. There we go. Okay, great. So folks, hi, I'm Christina Bostic. I'm with Montgomery Countryside Alliance. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm here to discuss very briefly moving toward an incubator program in Montgomery County, what's been done before, what it might take to get this on the ground. I'm going to whip through mine quite quickly because I'm here with my colleague Ellen Gordon from the Sugarloaf Citizens Association, who is moving toward something like this there on their land in Dickerson. I want to leave her time to discuss that because it's very exciting. And I'd love to leave time to discuss that and some of the things that I'm talking about here. So with that, I wanted to just briefly say sort of where we are in land access. It's something that you guys have talked about a lot in this cohort. You know, the pandemic was a real resilience check. Someone on a Zoom early on, a farmer had said, local is the new normal. Of course, we all thought that was the case the whole time, but it became a more widespread idea that as store shelves were lacking, your local farmer had what you needed. And folks were driving up unannounced on driveways in the ag reserve looking to buy a chicken, some vegetables, because that felt safe to them at that time. We also had a realignment during that time toward equitable land access and just a better and more wide understanding of exactly how stacked the cards are toward folks that weren't born into land but want to farm. And also a real turn toward culturally appropriate food and the importance of that for folks throughout income spectrums and just how important that is for dignity of folks. Also, in the pandemic instance, buying land is even more out of reach than ever. And we all know that to be true. Over here on the right, I just wanted to plug with the Office of Agriculture, we were really proud last year to bring out a BIPOC farmers resource. I can share the link to that in the chat, but that is something that we have on the OAG site. It's in multiple different languages. On our site, it's in English, and it's a resource that we're trying to keep evergreen for folks to access. Okay. So cast your mind back to 2010. I wanted to just discuss briefly the history of efforts toward an incubator here in Montgomery County. This is a document that's on our website. I will share that also more widely as I share this presentation. The Green Economy Task Force was convened by the county. They made a number of great recommendations about how we green our economy here in the county. One of them went to planning, and it was a suggestion for an intervale style incubator. For those not familiar with intervale, it is probably the gold standard for incubator. And when you think of an incubator, that's probably who you're basing it on. Farms entering the program for a number of years, training up with those wraparound supports, mentoring, sharing equipment, having their plot of land, but in a really supportive environment alongside other farms that are also training up, you know, sharing knowledge, equipment, inputs, and eventually graduating the program onto larger land and graduating with a holistic understanding about the business side and everything that they need to be successful. So at that time, County Executive Leggett asked Parks to provide land free or subsidized to this project. 3 hubs, we got as far as site selection in this, and I think that's important to know. There were 3 hubs considered, one in Clarksburg. I see Woody's on the call. It was imagined as sort of adjacent to his operation at Red Wiggler there. There was one in Sandy Spring, and then one in Bealsville that is in the ag reserve. Bealsville was thought to be the top option. It was 127 acres. The idea being it's already in the ag reserve. It's right along 28. So that was the one that was considered to be going forward. There was some historical buildings there that would need to be rehabbed, but it was thought that they could be sort of part and parcel of the entire operation there. I want to be really clear that this plan back in 2010 was really thinking about where to locate this, and it was light on details about the administration, also the funding. It was imagined that a nonprofit would do this as a day-to-day operation and they would administrate it. It was imagined that the Department of Environmental Protection would assign someone to do sort of business support at the outset, and sort of hand it over to that nonprofit. So what happened? It's a bit of a tale of two counties here. The Montgomery County effort fizzled out for any number of reasons that still aren't really clear. There was, some park staff assigned to it, then less and less park staff assigned to it. It was then a project of the county executive's office. We changed county executives. It got lost in the sauce. At the same time, a parallel effort in Prince George's County became incubated over years and years and years. And it's important to note it incubated over years and years and years, because these are not easy things. And I think we need to all be really clear on that. A lot of things have to come together. It became Eco City Farm, which I know that this group has gone and looked at and looked at as an option to replicate. MoCo's efforts were not for naught. I want to be clear about that. Out of that grew our own MCA's Landlink program, and then also the county's 1 year of the New Farmer Pilot Program. Pictured here, Tanya Doka-Spondola, who was a graduate of that program and graduated onto some acreage in Durwood and is still growing her passion to seed gardening project. So some things were great that came out of that. So we run the Landlink program. I see Alan Black's on here. He is leasing some land. Trufina is here. She is leasing some land, or Alan is, I should say, is offering some land. Trufina is leasing some land in Poolsville. So what we are hearing, what we are understanding from our land leasers, it is predominantly folks of color that are looking to come into this program. A majority are women. Many of them are immigrants. Most of them live down county, some from PG, some from farther, some from Baltimore County. Currently, it's a 7-to-2 ratio of seekers to landowners right now. This is a program that started in 2011, and that's where we are with it. Here are some trends we've noticed, and this is particularly true since the pandemic. By and large, everyone is wanting to do regenerative practices, sustainable practices. People are trying to grow all or part of their crops there for donation through food banks, food pantries, churches, that sort of thing. There is a large focus on culturally appropriate food, people wanting to grow for their own communities and meet those needs that are surely there. I want to be clear that not everyone is ready for a land link, and that the wraparound supports needed for success are not something that are part of this program. And that's one reason we want to see an incubator happen, because we are in a position where if folks don't have a large number of seasons under their belt, we do have to turn them away, because successful matches come from folks that really have had some seasons. So it seems to me there are two different ends of the spectrum here. Here we have Dodo Farms, Nee, and Tope. I would put Trufina, Tanya in these categories. Folks that are seasoned and they're in Landlink, and they need even more resources to access labor, equipment, more and more land as they become more and more successful. Landlink plus, we want to be clear that as we're advocating for folks just coming in, we're also advocating for folks that have those seasons, are doing their Landlinks, and still need that support to grow and be successful. And the bittersweet thing about Dodo Farms, they grew and grew and grew, and then when it came time to buy property, it was in Howard County, and that's a bittersweet thing. More small acreage in a range of locations to get those motivated farmers those opportunities, those folks that maybe are not ready to have their own thing in Landlink. those folks that were turning away from the program. You can picture it as a community garden plus. That's the incubator. And I want to be clear about something that it says here, a range of locations. We want to meet people where they are. Ellen is going to present what SDA is doing. It's one of many different things. Down County is going to be really, really important to also have incubators, put them everywhere, in some ways like the REACH program that Kate was discussing. Because the need is great, the need is broad, multiple solutions are necessary. I want to also say that a window is opening here with more focus on culturally appropriate food, with more focus on land access, as you know, this group is here. The window's opening because we're all here talking about it. But then federally as well, there's so many organizations pushing for a better and more equitable farm bill. And opportunities to fund something like this will come out of that. I do believe that. So like the report that came out in 2010, land is one piece and is a reasonable place to start because it's a tangible object and you need it to farm. But there is so many other things that go into making something like this successful. Collaboration is one thing. It's what I'm really struck about EcoCity is that it is the county, it is nonprofits, it is farmers, it is so many different things coming together to make that work. The funding piece is, I know, something that EcoCity is still struggling with, and that feeds into that long-term sustainability. When we're doing this, we want to do this for season after season after season, and that needs to be in it from the start. So that's where I want to close out to hopefully give some more time to other speakers. But I really appreciate you guys having me, and I'm willing to answer any questions in the chat for later. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And now we will pass it on to Ellen.
Thank you. And Lorianne's going to bring up the slides and run them for me. It's not my skill set. But I'll start. I'm a longtime board member of Sugarloaf Citizens Association. And you'll see when the slide comes up, SCA formed 50 years ago, which is actually prior to the establishment of the Ag Reserve. Folks got together, formed the organization to try to begin protecting open space and farmland in the reserve. We're an all-volunteer organization. Originally, it was basically fighting against locally undesirable land uses, LULUs. We've moved since then. We still do a lot of that, as I think Mike pointed out and others. There are continual threats. It's open space up here, and it just looks attractive to a lot of people to do things other than farming with it. But we've also gotten more proactive. Oh, here comes the screen. So that's a little bit. If you can go to the first slide. Anyway, or that one will do it. Okay, that's the first slide. The first one with the, when Lorianne gets back to it, the first slide shows part of our property. That's a dairy barn that's been converted to use. We use it as meeting space, classroom space. Different ag-oriented and educational groups use it. We have about 140 acres that we steward, which was a big change for us. We currently have 90 acres leased to and working with a regenerative grazer, and we're part of the Million Acre Challenge. And we are, he's struggling and working hard to transition that land, which the soil was really damaged by many years of conventional commodities crops. So he's been working on that for 4 years, and it looks like this year it'll finally be potentially able to support the regenerative adaptive grazing he wants to do, probably with cattle. We have additional land, like another 50 acres, maybe 30 acres of which we are interested. It's largely land. Some of it was, a small piece was farmed conventionally, and some of it has essentially been mowed for years. And I won't, Lorian, I won't go into details on that. But so we're looking to basically stop mowing, start growing. It's a potential site. There's a there's a lot of legwork and money and effort involved. One potential use of it, and a really positive use of it, would be an incubator site, as Christina mentioned. We're not in the best location for access. We're in the far northwest corner of the ag reserve. I mean, for access to some of the population that would probably be interested in farming at a farm incubator. But we have the land, which is something that's lacking in a lot of other places. At a minimum, we will get it into regenerative table crops in some sort of a demonstration and teaching format. I guess you can, I maybe move to slide 3, Lorianne. I know I mixed them up. Thank you. Oh, I just mentioned that one is a good shot of the 90 acres that's being converted. That's a historic stone wall in front of it, and that's what's being converted to regenerative grazing. And if you can see the pink on that, that's crimson clover, which is part of the diverse cover crop that was put in. I guess you can, and this slide also shows you a couple of other groups I'm involved in that are very much related. Our SCA's board is a volunteer board of 19, and we all wear different hats. I'm the point person on our land stewardship and also the issues that most directly relate to agriculture. I'm also a member of the Climate Coalition Montgomery's Food Resilience Working Group. And I think now you can go to slide 4, Lorianne. I'm trying to remember my slides. Matt, go to the next one after that. So this dovetails very closely with what SCA is doing. The Food Resilience Working Group, you can see on that, we envision our region as a resilient and sustainable localized food system. We did an article in a magazine in the fall, wrote it as a group. Our sort of central thesis is the food emergency is coming, not just, I mean, I know it already exists for a lot of folks, but it's facing the whole population as a result of the climate crisis. Our thesis is it's coming a lot sooner than a lot of folks would like to think or can even imagine. So we've had a lot of meetings with trying to figure out what's going on in the region with different groups, decided that long range, there's some planning needed. Short range, we want to support in whatever way we can the establishment of farm incubators in Montgomery County. I think Philip dropped some information about the group into the chat as well. I happy to take questions. That was my kind of quick summary of what SCA is and what the Food Resilience Working Group is. But I know we're tight on time, so happy to provide more information or take questions, but I'll let you move on. Oh, that was thank you. That was our pitch for SCA celebrating its 50th anniversary. We're going to have a great farm food to table celebration, including live music. And you can find out more about that on our website, sugarloafcitizens.org. So, okay, thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And that sounds so exciting. So if you have any questions, please, again, put them in the chat and we'll go over them afterwards. Next up, we have Amy Zimmerman, co-founder of the Community Food Forest Collective. And all right, I'll pass it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll kick us off. My name is Amy. For those of you I haven't met yet, I'm part of the Community Food Forest Collective. We are a local volunteer-run nonprofit of neighbors around the Tacoma Park area, and we are working on designing and installing food forests in the region. So we are really grateful for the opportunity to speak to all of you today about our work building local food forests. I'll talk a little bit about who our group is, a little bit about what is a food forest, and then I'll talk about our 2 projects at Montgomery College and Tacoma Park Elementary School. So a bit about our group as an introduction. We are made up of residents from the Tacoma Park and nearby areas. We're all volunteers, and we all share a passion for designing, installing, and maintaining food forests in the region. We launched about 2 years ago. We've got about 150 people on our listserv, 15 core organizers, and 6 highly skilled permaculture designers. And all of us are drawn together by a passion for what food forests can do to enhance the health and well-being of our communities. We've started 2 food forests, which I'll talk about today. One at Montgomery College at the Silver Spring Tacoma Park campus, and one at Tacoma Park Elementary School. We've been fortunate to win significant funding for each of these sites. And we've also been connected to several other local community-led initiatives, including several of you all on this call, who are involved in urban food production, and a larger community of food forests in the Maryland region who bring a lot of expertise to our group. So for those of you who are a little bit less familiar with food forests as a type of gardening, let me talk a little bit briefly about what exactly goes into a food forest. So imagine that you have a garden that looks kind of like a woodland edge. So we plant perennials that mimic the layers of a natural forest. That means it's a mix of trees, bushes, ground covers, vines. Then imagine that woodland edge produces an abundance of nutrient-dense food. So we're particularly focused on edible foods, fruit trees like figs, persimmons, pawpaws, berry bushes like blueberries, gooseberries, elderberries, herbs, and perennial vegetables. And then imagine that ultimately it needs very little digging, weeding, manual watering, or pest control. So we're focused on water harvesting techniques, on pollinator attracting native plants, and plants that serve as fertilizer for other plants like nitrogen fixers. And lastly, imagine that it all exists in harmony with animals and other beings, providing a place for the community to gather in a way that enhances the social cohesion. And so we're really focused on doing all of this in a way that brings people together for education, recreation, and service. Kate touched on that very eloquently as well. Ultimately, it is largely about the community, and all of that together is a food forest. So a bit about the projects that we're working on. We're in the early stages of building a food forest at Montgomery College at their Tacoma Park and Silver Spring campus. A couple of goals of the project here. The project aims to deepen the understanding of food production and food sovereignty by engaging students in planting and caring for a food forest. And another key aim of this project is to support the supply of free food to the college, which suffers from high rates of food insecurity. And it's very important for them to increase the diversity and nutrient content of the food that they supply to students. So 37% of Montgomery College students experience food security in the past month. 38% said in a survey that they could not afford to eat balanced meals, and 43% were worried about running out of food before they had money to buy more food. And so this is very top of mind for the college and part of their support for the project. To start the project, our group of permaculture designers made a design for planting at the site, and that started with observing the features of the site and taking into account things like how water and wind move through the site. And so each section of the design responds to those kind of unique issues. For example, we'll have areas with stormwater runoff where we're building water catchment areas. We've got shady areas where we'll plant medicinal herbal plants, things like that. We've held about a dozen community work days so far. You can see some of those photos here on this slide. We've been preparing the soil and starting to plant. We've laid down leaf mulch and wood chips. We had a local landscape architect lead a group of volunteers to build a dry stone wall to help with the water management. In the bottom right photo here, you can see that we've planted edible plants in shallow ditches, and that's intended to help with water harvesting. And then around those edible plants, we've planted nitrogen fixing plants, and as they grow, we'll use that as fertilizer. One of the biggest highlights of this project for me has been having so many different communities come together to work on this. So it's been our nonprofit group, the college, the neighbors, high school students, and many other local organizations. The college has been a tremendous partner for us here. A student member of our group started a permaculture club on campus, which has 30 students involved. And that permaculture club designed one section of the garden. They've been leading community work days, and they're working with the library on campus to start a seed library there. We've also engaged other parts of the college. The woodworking department is working on building benches for an outdoor classroom space. The art department is going to paint a mural at the space. There's an agriculture professor who is going to support fruit tree maintenance in the garden. We'll also work closely with the college to ensure that the food grown in the food forest reaches students in need as we harvest. And we've been working very closely with the facilities team at the college, and we have been given 2 additional plots of land from them, which we will plant in future seasons. It's also very much one of the goals of the college and us here that this garden is shared with the broader community as well. And so we've done outreach to surrounding neighbors, and they've joined us in this work. We've also been advertising this as an opportunity for SSL hours, and we've drawn a large number of high school students from around the county to join us in this project through that. And we've got an official partnership with the Master Gardeners organization for this site. They've joined our work days to help educate the community. And we've had great help from local nonprofits like Coiner Farm, you heard from Kate earlier, Cheer, Shepherd's Table, and other groups that some of you all are connected to as well. So in the future, as we continue to prepare, plant, and maintain this garden, we'll lead education workshops so that students and the community can learn planting, propagation, transplanting, and grafting skills. We'll have workshops on how to cook the food, as well as the cultural and historical significance of the plants. We'll run workshops on permaculture and food forestry so that students and the community can apply these skills in their own homes and communities. And we'll also promote the space as a community resource that's available for events and gatherings, and continue to mobilize volunteers to steward, harvest, and maintain the site over many years to come. So it'll be a space for community and college engagement, recreation and education, and a way of building long-lasting bridges across our communities. And then I'll talk a little bit about our second main project, which is at Tacoma Park Elementary School. The objective here is to create a living classroom for the children, a place where students can pick and eat fruit, learn where fruit comes from, and introduce them to native fruits, vegetables, and herbs in conjunction with their education. And so here we've held community work days. We've laid mulch, we've built raised beds, which you can see in the photos here. We've cleared invasive plants from the area. We've established a partnership with MCPS more broadly for this project. And you can see in the top right, we've planted 18 fruit trees this spring. You can see our grove of pawpaws there in the photo. This is MCPS's first pilot food forest program, and we've already heard from other schools as well who are interested to get similar programs in the future. So stay tuned, hopefully more to come from this. We started a student after school garden club that's very popular and now in its 2nd year. And we've got an upcoming community work day on May 11th to continue to prepare and plant this garden. Besides these 2 schools, we've also been working with county and city government officials who are planning a feasibility study of a community food forest at a public park here in Tacoma Park. And we've been working with local public and private landowners on additional potential food forests in the region. So with that, I will wrap up. We appreciate the chance to share our work with all of you and all of your continued support and partnership, and happy to answer questions in the chat. With that, I will close us out for broader questions.
Yes, thank you, Amy. I will pass it on to Lorianne, who will facilitate the Q&A portion of the meeting.
Sure. I'm happy that we have a little bit of time left over for questions for any of our wonderful speakers today. I would like to say I'm going to go ahead and provide in the chat a feedback survey where if you want to just get off a quick written thought about anything that was presented today, we're going to put all this information together in a recap packet on the state of projects related to incubator farms and similar projects here in the county. So go ahead and follow that link, and I basically beg you to fill out that feedback survey so we can get a little information and data from you all about that. Without further ado, is there anyone who would like to to raise your hand or come off mute and ask a question of any of our speakers? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and just start us off with one quick question for Amy Zimmerman of the Community Food Forest Collective. And I just wondered I know that you all have a lot of different funding and financing, and I sort of wondered, if you could just give a brief background, Amy, as to sort of what your key partnerships and key funders have been in these projects.
Yeah, happy to. And I know Miles and Philip, who have also been very involved in our fundraising efforts, are on the call as well. So feel free to chime in there as well. We've received significant funding from the Montgomery County Food Council for supporting the Montgomery College site, as well as the Chesapeake Bay Trust and some smaller local grants from Tacoma Park as well. Miles, anything, or Philip, anything that you would like to add on our fundraisers?
Yeah, so it's the
just to mention go ahead, Miles.
You go.
I was going to say we did get a grant from the Fruit Tree Planting Foundation. I'm not sure because of the delay we had at the Tacoma Park Elementary School whether we're going to continue to find another site for the award they gave to us.
Yeah, and also from the Chesapeake Bay Trust as well. I mean, that's what's so good about these agroforestry systems, the food forestry stuff, is that you can apply for funding from, sources that don't necessarily focus directly on urban agriculture, right? So you can apply for grants that fund the trees that support, that are integral, obviously, to the food forest system. So yeah, so we've had a lot of success applying for, money from outside of the conventional sources, I guess. So yeah, Chesapeake Bay Trust, and then the county have been great. The city have been terrific at supporting our after-school gardening club at the elementary school. And then yeah, lots of just smaller grants from the forestry board and from various other groups that have been supported in terms of the fencing that it takes to build these systems. So yeah, lots of different
We've had many partnerships. I think one of the key ones has been with Ben Fritton at the Reed Center. He also has brought us in on some funding proposals that I think are out. We're still waiting to hear about. The USDA has an innovation grant, and we're trying to help him with some of the funding for that would also help us.
Great. Well, I have also just wondered for a question for the group. I mean, one of the biggest guiding questions for me is how we can promote more of this programming to get basically the dream, which is, something like an incubator farm, basically kind of trying to copy the elements of success from a lot of these different programs. And, just wondered if anybody sees any sort of potential or basically areas of collaboration or ideas, brainstorms.
Yeah, Lorian, this is Kate Medina. Great question. And in thinking through or like listening to all of these amazing presentations, well, first, Amy gets the award for the most beautiful slides. Like, those are awesome, Amy. Great job. But we've got like a really great framework going on here, right? So we've got the urban focused or community focused areas of urban farms and food forests, urban food forests, really focus on exposure. And then from there, trying to take it to education And then finally, like career incubator. The last piece would be affordable land, right? And so we're, trying to reach as many people as we can with those foundational pieces. And I think the top 2 tiers of that, what I just kind of drew out is like moving people from just exposure to education to an actual career in food production. The top 2 tiers are going to be the toughest nut to crack, pun intended. But I give, so much credit to those who have been working since 2010 on this farm incubator and creating the foundation with the Land Link program. So anyways, to your question, I think that those would be the 2 areas that we, the promotion piece can be done through big, huge volunteer days, high visibility sites. But once we pull out those individuals who really want to make a career in food production and do it here in Montgomery County, making sure that they have a path in the support way at the top level there, that needs a lot of attention still, in my opinion, but please feel free to comments.
Kate, I do have a question for you that was directed towards me by accident. It was sent as a direct message to me, but someone asked, what would you say was the key tipping point for moving the middle school project from idea to reality?
Oh yeah. All right. Fabulous question. And a couple answers there. One is, and I think this is a recurring theme here, is the partnerships. Like you've got to put in the time to make sure you get all the partners kind of bought in. So there's the landowner in our case, which is Montgomery County Public Schools. There's the organization that can be the operator, which is the nonprofit, Charles Corner Conservancy, and then several funders. One of the main holdups was actually the county funding, because we wanted to make sure that the county was truly invested. We kind of kept hearing like, this is a great idea, great partnership, cool, but does the county want this? And so anyway, so making sure that we had the county funding secured before moving forward was a key element. But yeah, it took several years. So in 2021, a unsolicited proposal for land disposition. So take county land and use it for urban farming, just like take some little plots that the county wasn't using. So that proposal was submitted in 2021. And then a site was granted in 2023. But due to some communications problems, that right of entry was revoked. It turned out that the site was not suitable for farming, even though it originally granted a right of entry for urban farming. So that was a big setback. But then, hindsight's 2020, this site is way better. The partnerships are way stronger. So yeah, trying to go it alone is tough, but forming those partnerships makes it possible.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for that wonderful putting a cap on it, Kate. I feel like that's like the whole point, like partnerships make it possible, right? And just noting that the time, just thank you so much for your all's participation. And I think once again, we're going to compile slides and notes from this meeting and feedback from your all's survey responses, and try to put it all together to sort of demonstrate the ongoing potential for an incubator farm in Montgomery County. So stay tuned. And thanks, Esther. Also, back to you to close us out.
No, I just want to say thank you to Lorian and Esther too. You guys